In a world full of games that hold your hand and guide you through every step, there's something uniquely captivating about a game that drops you into its world with no directions, no map, no objectives, just a challenge waiting to be unraveled. Cocoon is one such game, and it highlights why this no-direction approach is incredibly rewarding, especially for puzzle games. One of the most remarkable things about Cocoon is the way it tells its story. It doesn't rely on long dialogue scenes, constant quest markers, or tutorials guiding you every step of the way. Instead, the story unfolds quietly through the world itself, and it's up to you to piece everything together. There's a beauty in this ambiguity. The lack of overt direction forces you to pay attention to the environment, the mechanics, and how things change as you progress. Video games that don't explicitly tell you what's going on or what's important allow room for personal interpretation. You get to take what you see and feel in the game and shape your own narrative around it. Maybe you didn't get the story that developers envisioned, but that's okay. The power of a puzzle adventure game like Cocoon is that it lets you fill in the gaps and gives you ownership over your understanding of the world. In a way, the story becomes your story, and the game becomes a vehicle for your imagination. The beauty of Cocoon's design is also found in its simplicity. The game's mechanics are so easy to grasp, but the real challenge lies in figuring out how to use those mechanics in clever ways. There's no hand-holding, no tutorials telling you what buttons to press or what to do next. You are simply dropped into the world, and you need to experiment, fail, and try again. This approach is what makes the game so rewarding. Every little puzzle you solve feels like a triumph because you weren't given the answer. You earned it. The trial and error process isn't frustrating here, it's empowering. You feel a sense of progression that comes from your own effort, not from following a linear path that's been laid out for you. In many ways, this is a much more satisfying feeling than being told what to do at every turn. Another key aspect of Cocoon's design that games can learn from is the sense of exploration. When you're not being told where to go, you get to carve your own path and discover secrets at your own pace. The lack of explicit objectives or question marks on a map means you can take your time to observe your surroundings. And it's this very active discovery that makes the game so rewarding. In Cocoon, you're not just solving puzzles, you're exploring a world and its mechanics in a deeply personal way. The satisfaction doesn't just come from solving a puzzle, it comes from the journey of figuring things out for yourself, from realizing that your own curiosity can lead you to new solutions. This sense of freedom and exploration enhances the overall experience and truly gives the space to feel immersed in the game world. Let's not forget how rewarding it is to feel self-reliant. I've been preaching that when a puzzle adventure game doesn't shove objectives down your throat, it encourages you to think critically and creatively. Cocoon is a prime example of how this approach can lead to a deeply satisfying experience. The challenges you face are often not complex in their mechanics, but it's your ability to approach them from new angles that matters most. This fosters a sense of accomplishment that feels earned. You're not just following a series of steps that someone else has set out for you, you're taking what you know, experimenting with it, and coming up with your own solutions. That's a key aspect of any puzzle game that gets lost in a lot of titles with excessive direction. In Cocoon, the lack of guidance pushes you to be more resourceful. And when you solve a problem, you know it's because you figured it out yourself. Another pretty powerful aspect of this style of game design is minimalism. When you're not overloaded with the tutorials, quest logs, or constant reminders of what to do, the game has room to breathe. There's a purity in that simplicity, and Cocoon embraces it beautifully. The sparse narrative and subtle world building allow you to fill in the blanks with your imagination. The puzzles themselves aren't bogged down by unnecessary mechanics, which lets their brilliance shine through. Minimalism in design doesn't mean sacrificing depth. It means letting the core experience take center stage. For a puzzle game, this is incredibly powerful. It allows every element, from the mechanics to the environment, to play a role in telling the story and creating challenges. This leaves space for the player to engage with the game on a much more personal level. Like so many video game titles today, a standout feature of Cocoon is its boss fights. However, so many of those games often come with lengthy tutorials, quick-time events, or on-rail style encounters. Cocoon challenges you to approach these battles with the same minimalist philosophy. Remember, the mechanics are simple, but they require you to think critically, adapt, and use the tools you already have in creative ways. What makes these boss fights so rewarding is that there's no overt direction. You're left to observe patterns, experiment with what's at your disposal, and figure out the right strategy. The victory feels earned because you didn't rely on memorizing a guide or a scripted sequence. It's a culmination of your ability to interpret the battle on your own terms, using the game's simple mechanics in the way that feels most natural to you. This makes each victory not only satisfying, but also personal. In my opinion, Cocoon is a shining example of how puzzle adventure games can be incredibly rewarding when they leave the player to their own devices. It encourages self-reliance, creative thinking, and personal interpretation of the world. Without excessive direction or hand-holding, Cocoon allows players to explore at their own pace, fostering a deep sense of accomplishment and engagement. It's a beautiful reminder that sometimes the most fulfilling experiences come when a game trusts the player to figure things out for themselves. So, thank you to Geometric Interactive, the developers of Cocoon, for crafting such a unique and thought-provoking experience. Games like this inspire us to think differently about how stories are told and how incredibly simple mechanics can be used to create something truly magnificent. And to you, the players, next time you pick up a puzzle-inspired video game, maybe embrace the challenge of diving in without a guide. You might just be surprised at how much more rewarding it can be.